G'day, folks. Lovely to have you here again. My next mate, I was sitting at home a few weeks ago watching the telly, and then I saw a full MCG, and then this bloke got up and just started speaking and just had the whole place locked in. And I thought that is one of the most, not just in sports, one of the most impressive public speaking things I've ever heard. But that's not the only reason they're here today. They're also a star of the AFL. They played for GWS, which we're going to talk about. They played for the Doggies on one very special day in particular we'll talk about. But then also they're now known more so for their work they've done far beyond their career as an actual player. Our mate this week is Tom Boyd. G'day.
Let's go.
Can I ask you a question very quickly? Are you a fan of music?
Yes.
So this guy here is Tom.
Hi.
Good name. Strong name.
Strong name.
Yeah, you have the same name. Now, Tom, he makes music.
Right.
We made a song about you.
Yes.
Not a whole song. Have you heard this?
No, yes, I want to hear it is the answer. Yeah.
Okay, great. It's not you singing, it's not you talking, but it's about you.
Let's go.
And you'll know the voice, and you'll know it immediately. It goes like this. It's a vibe, firstly. Here it comes.
Sunday afternoon.
Beauty.
Yeah.
That's how I enjoy it.
Bit of garage.
Do you remember? You know what that's from?
No.
You've never heard this? Genuinely?
I know.
You've coined a moment of BT's career.
Well, not only that, I mean, as you mentioned, I'm a past player of the league now, and every year that passes, my father being one of them, but a lot of people go, well, Tom, when is your relevance going to run out? This is the kind of inspiring work that I get from the people around me. And I say, no fear. Have no fear, because every single year that passes, a whole range of 11-year-olds find that commentary on TikTok, and I become famous once again.
And then this shit comes out. You made BT say the F word. But we'll get into more serious chat, and I know you've mentioned that you're on Media Street this week talking to Shepard and Radio more, to name
the
a few.
D and DOS show as well. I'm not sure if you
yeah.
So
I know D and
did
DOS.
a good job.
Yeah. As in Caden?
I don't know what
Caden
their actual
John
names
Cadens?
are.
No, different.
One of them's Wade.
Right. Oh. Anyway. Oh, no, I do know that show. Anyway. We will get into more serious things, but do you remember that moment of kicking that goal?
Oh, of course, yeah. It was so very complimentary that the MCG was full the other night with Carlton and St Kilda, but I don't think either of those clubs could fill half an MCG.
Full for a St Kilda crowd.
Well, exactly. They've gone from 65,000 with me there 3 weeks ago to 13,000, as Dimmer quite rightly put it on the weekend.
Yeah, that was rough, wasn't it?
That's not just beat up St Kilda. They've got some issues.
No, but yes, exactly right.
Yes, I remember that moment. So 99,981 that day. Always frustrated me. Just round up.
I think that, because you notice every year now, as of about 3 or 4 years ago, since it came back after COVID, it's always 100,005, 100,000, 21. It's fake.
Yeah, obviously. Or they could actually just count the 400 blokes selling pies.
Yeah.
We'd be sweet.
It's clearly like it's sold out. We're just going to say it's sold out. But I'll be like, because getting 100,000 in there is actually really hard to do. I used to work there, Tom.
Wow.
I was the CEO of...
It's all downhill since you left.
Yeah, exactly right. But yeah, you remember that moment?
Absolutely. I remember parts of it. Like there's a couple of bits that always stand out. One, you should never take advantage of a free kick if you're over 6 foot.
Yeah.
Maybe 6'2". Having said that, I didn't know it was a free kick, so full plausible.
Could you hear whistles that day? It's
No,
a grand
not at all.
final,
No.
99,300.
981. There was a specific moment in the second quarter, I think, where Gary Rowan basically took a touched mark and no one knew. He literally walked back, lined up for his goal, and the umpire's just whistling and whistling.
Yeah.
And anyway, that took like 15, 20 seconds for them to realise. So no, I couldn't hear anything. And I remember basically I was sort of just like, there's a way to look like you're trying in the AFL, particularly on defence, right? Because no one really cares.
Right.
And that is to sort of just track up the ground as a forward, to just get closer to the opposition goals. And that's essentially what I was doing. Ball sort of bobbles around, spills back into the middle. Dale tackles Buddy. I pick up the ball. And I just remember I didn't even consider passing it to anyone.
Yeah.
I was like, a bit of grass out of here. I like kicking it from here. And for all the people that have said, obviously, amazing goal, very, very low likelihood that most of the time that goal goes through. I get all that. But having said that, when you're an AFL footballer in particular, there is a sort of constant theme of meeting in the middle of the ground, like when you're training, and you train on field 3 or 4 times a week. And at the end of every sort of huddle that breaks out, if you can imagine, the coach comes in and says, hey, this is what's going well, this is an extra, is essentially all of us who could kick the ball far would bring a ball to the huddle, and then we'd all have a sort of 60, 70 metre shot from goal from that exact spot every single time. So it was something that's pretty comfortable. Oh, yeah, to a degree. A bit more of a stage than normal, but... Yeah.
It's part of footy folklore, obviously, for Doggies fans. I was in Los Angeles at the time of this game, and we flew back. We took off out of LA at the time that the fourth quarter was happening, about the time you're kicking this goal. And as we landed in Melbourne, this is a true story, we flew out around the city. There's 2 runways in Melbourne, FYI, Tom Boyd.
There are.
One's east to west and one's north to south. They're building another one, but that's a story for another day. The north to south one, because of wind, they came around the city over Port Melbourne and flew in over the west of Melbourne. I looked out the right side of the plane and I see Whitten Oval full. And this is the time when there was no internet on planes. So this is Sunday morning after that grand final. I have a photo of it on my phone.
Can you show me this photo? Because I have seen a photo from either your plane or someone else. The story I heard was they were coming from Memphis.
Oh, yeah, that could...
So you might have a competitor in this unique photo space that you don't know about.
I don't know this Memphis person. They can go get fucked as far as I'm concerned because, like, I'm the guy with the photos. You understand?
The photo I recall, which I haven't seen yours yet, is essentially like the Whitten Oval on Family Day.
Yeah.
Which if you can imagine a heart being Whitten Oval, all blue and white predominantly, you could see, and then like the blue blood basically streaming out into the veins. Yeah, different angle than yours, but very, very similar.
Yeah.
Theirs was slightly better.
Maybe they're. I think
they were a bit more.
You, man.
They were a bit more above it. You know?
I was like, well, shit, they won.
Yeah,
but I was like, or they're really supportive,
or they're burning the club.
or it's all gone to shit. But so yes, that was a wonderful day. I'm sure a very fond memory. You're still very active in the football world. Do you love football? Do you still love football?
Active in the football world, I wouldn't say is completely accurate. I'm certainly on the periphery of the AFL, which, by the way, not in the same way as you guys are. It's the place to be.
You're in the inner peripheral world.
Yeah.
We're Adelaide. If football's Melbourne,
we're in the same country.
Yeah, we're in the same country. Well, then not Adelaide then.
So yes, I'm sort of in the vicinity, but like the simplest way to describe it is when I retired, people have often said to me, hey, do you hate footy? Do you love footy? What's the sort of feeling you have towards it? And the simple way to answer is I didn't leave football. You know, I grew up kicking mud and dirt and whatever car parts had risen out of the soil at the old tip at Mullum Reserve, where I grew up playing as a kid.
Mullum Reserve.
Norwood is the name of the club. Not this. No.
No.
Not. What are they called? The Redlegs?
The Redlegs. Yeah. No, this is Donvale.
No,
huh?
Ringwood, but yeah.
Okay, right.
So Norwood is an abbreviated and also should be mentioned made up word for North Ringwood.
Okay, right. I love it.
There's also a North Ringwood already, right? So
I used to do kids theatre, and we would go to whenever we were going to Donvale, I knew that I would have to cut any religious bits from the kids show about like condoms and stuff like that because it was always heavily religious.
I'm not going to say that the religious part was the reason why you should cut it for the kids show, but
yeah, I did
some other considerations.
Hey, year 10s on year 6s who's got dingers? It was a lot of the stuff. It was a bad time in my life. About the time you were dominating. Sorry, go on.
So yes, no, I didn't leave football. I left the AFL, which is a league, and in particular, it's a professional sporting league with a whole range of extenuating circumstances around being a footballer there, of which I would say arguably has continued to play it in a far worse way in some ways for players than it used to when I was there.
Let me know. Tell me more.
Well, I think there's sort of 3 phases in recent media attention towards AFL players. The first was really around, maybe there's 4. The original was just like print media and radio and television.
Sure.
Not a lot of character pieces, not a lot of focus on who the players were as people, much more like we just do the games. And obviously the football media built up over a period of time through the 60s, 70s and 80s. Then you got to the stage when I entered the league, so drafted 2013, where print media, radio and television was still the kings of the hill, but there was now this new thing called social media, which was just starting. So Twitter was on the scene. Instagram hasn't come yet. Facebook is not really being applied as a news-ish platform or whatever it's used for these days. Many things,
Yeah.
I think is the answer. And
So this thing you're talking about went nowhere, yes? What was it? Social
media.
No, I'm not familiar.
Yeah, interesting.
Sorry, go on.
So in some far-reaching parts of the non-internet receiving parts of Brunswick, they tell me it still hasn't got.
Yeah, that's right.
And at that stage, from a like presence point of view, there was almost no player who was, you know, the equivalent of obviously the Bailey Smith or any of these sort of very high-profile guys at the moment on social media. So really what it was the traditional media plus social media, which just had the traditional media on there. So their reach got a bit bigger for a small period of time, as I can tell. And what that meant was that everyone in the country believed the exact same thing, because there wasn't even diversity of opinion back then. It was just the same shit over and over and over again. So my point being is that when I entered the league, it was like, every single person I've ever met thinks the same thing about me as the person before, and it's all dictated by 3 or 4 major platforms across 3 or 4 mediums. Then social media took over, and we went through this period where all of the opinions were stratified across 1,000 different people and influencers, and players had a voice, and we could start actually taking some of that brand recognition back into our own field of influence and control. And then basically sort of the traditional media circumstances died in the way that it used to be, and now has basically become an engine room to distribute social media clips, which is why you get so much of the rubbish that gets printed and sent today. So that's essentially it. And that's what also the breed of the, you know, the lovable larrikins, which I've never met you guys before, but that's what I sort of current perception.
We're sort of the Banjo Patterson type characters.
Right, yeah. The man from Snowy River.
That's our kind of vibe. No, it's funny. I won't say the person's name, but a person very close to me has a saying that he believes that social media will be looked back in 50 years from now as the smoking of our generation is in the 50s and the 90s. Like, you would look back and say everyone was doing it. It was completely fine. We didn't know the long-term harms and side effects of it. But I feel like I kind of agree. We'll look back and go, I can't believe how poorly we handled it and how much reform or change or maturity we've approached it with over the years.
The funny difference is, though, that smoking generally, like the lobbyist groups that obviously were a part of Big Tobacco, could influence the media, which told people what to think. The social media companies are the media telling people what to think. So in a way, we should know better quicker. Right? Yeah. It shouldn't take 40 years of lobbying in the government
it shouldn't.
and a couple of movies that, you know.
But unfortunately, my brain's mush now. So I'm not from the exactly right. It's just this, it's funny you talk about 2013 because my comedy group has kind of started where we got our audience. No one would give us a TV show, so we got our audience on YouTube because that was like the Channel 31 of a younger generation, but for the world. And we started to tour purely because that was our online audience. But we've kind of seen the rise and fall of all these different platforms over the years to the point now where our model now is essentially like be on all of them and try and reach as many people.
Totally.
But also, when people used to watch your social media content in the early days, if you had 10,000 people watch you, the efficacy, the success of the view would be quite high.
Yeah, of course.
I saw that video. I know it. I know who you are.
Yeah. If you're going to push something, they saw it.
Yeah. But now the efficacy, the success of a number is so vague. It's like how many people in a view are actually worth a genuine amount of your time.
Yeah.
What's an actual view? What's an actual Yeah,
totally agree. I mean, like I must say I've like basically don't use Twitter. Certainly don't use Facebook, except for with the Danny Boyd podcast that I do with Danny McGinlay about the dogs. Because would you believe many of the Bulldogs fraternity is still on Facebook?
That's very trendy.
Yeah,
it's the woolen jumper of the social media platforms.
Can you imagine the disarray that the footballing community would be in if they pulled Facebook tomorrow? How would any of these people talk about the future of their club or criticise everything about every player on their list and prophesize what's going to come next?
Sometimes I open Facebook and then like a Herald Sun article will go past and it'll be like, a woman has said this, or they're like just some sort of marginally progressive thought, and you go, look at it, 19,000 comments. I wonder what they say. I'm not going to open that.
This is why being able to rewind time would be fun for only very small tasks.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, when I got traded back to the Bulldogs, signed this massive contract. I'm in Indonesia during this trade period. Got no reception. So I'm just like iMessaging back and forth on this crappy Wi-Fi. And again, this is 2013. 13, so 14, sorry,
Yep.
which is a little bit different to now.
Mm-hmm.
And I come back to Melbourne, and not only did I think there was going to be 1,000 paparazzi at the airport, there wasn't. Maybe because no one leaked, or maybe they didn't care.
Yeah.
And then I come back, and would you believe that also I had friends reach out straight away to start pitching new business ideas to me.
Interesting.
I went to one. That was it.
Yeah.
And anyway, I'm sitting in this business meeting in Richmond. My back starts.
In Richmond of all play, what a surprise.
I don't know.
And they for me.
I will travel into you. And they're walking me through this completely horrendous idea. And my back starts really hurting. I'm like pretty good with pain. Think it's a full-blown back spasm, which I'd had before. I'm starting to sweat. Anyway, so I go home. I can't sleep that night because I'm so much in pain. And I do Triple M in the morning, like 6 a.m., 6:30 with, I think with JB and whoever else was on with him at that
JB
stage.
Drive to Work, yeah, Triple M, 5.1, yeah.
That's the one. And that was when they had the Push-Up King and all the fun stuff.
Oh, yes, sure, yes.
And anyway, so I do that interview sleepless. Then I go to bed and finally fall asleep. Mum wakes me up when she comes home from her job at a school at about 4 o'clock. She goes, "You look terrible." Anyway, long story short, I had appendicitis, right? Shocking. Go to the Epworth Hospital, check in, club doctor, turns. Anyway, we all sort of get this. And the surgeon that they booked, this is when I knew I'd made it. The surgeon goes, "They're not going to do your surgery in here for another 5 hours. I won't accept that. We're going to Melbourne Private." I'm like, great. So we went there. They opened the hospital for me. Open
Melbourne Private.
It wasn't open at all. No lights on, the whole thing. And my point on the article, to make this all make sense as to why I brought this up, the next morning, in The Age, Australia's most expensive appendix has been removed.
Hell yeah.
Imagine the comments on that. That thing would have made them a fortune. We should have done a profit share arrangement of
100%.
putting this back on Facebook.
How are your? Did you get it keyholed or did you have it sliced open? What
Yeah, through the sort of belly button keyhole. All good. Yours is obviously worse. Would you do that at home?
Yeah. I got it when I was in like 1997. And I had no big contracts at that time or anything.
No, I imagine you were
8 years old. Yeah, 9.
I was going to say 18, 19.
Yeah, rough. Hurts. And it was in Adelaide, so they were still like, duh. So they just kind of went at it with a scalpel. And well, congratulations on your belly button one.
Yeah,
I can't believe that. It's so unfair.
It's pretty mad. I've got a couple of good scars though.
Do you?
Yeah, back surgery, shoulders was keyhole, face scar that you probably can't see. Full had plastic surgery when I was 5. Got a few.
What was are there any talk funny or are they all just sad? Like
no, this one is interesting if you like skateboarding.
Well, yeah, this is a skateboard show.
It does seem a little bit like that.
Yeah, the skatey.
When I was 5, I had a friend over at my house, and we were both riding the 2 bikes that were available. My sister's a couple of years older than me, so I was like, I'll take the bigger bike.
Sort of it's starting quite Matt Hoffman-y.
Yeah,
but
it was
then
a bit of a mistake.
Okay, right, yep.
So anyway, my dad had left out over the stairs down in our backyard this big bit of redwood timber, right? So they could bring the wheelbarrow with a
beauty.
fly
Oh,
wheel.
yep, sure.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it was a very hard bit of redwood and a very sharp cut bit of redwood. And I basically just fell and did a 50-50 grind with my face down the extent of it, and basically had the what's that guy of Futurama with the tentacle face?
Yeah,
Squidward or something.
Dr. Zoidberg.
Yeah,
Zoidberg face for quite a period of time at 5. Kind of ruined the day a bit.
Yeah. I knew we'd bring up Dr. Zoidberg. I knew it was going to come up eventually. Okay, great. Well, I'm glad you got through that, and you're here. You are 29 now, which sitting in front of you really fucking upsets me because you are like a big man, and you're 7 years younger than me, and you're such an impressive individual that the other week I rode the bike for St Kilda around the MCG with Marnie as well. We're on a what's the word for it?
Oh, it's an omni bike or something. What's it called?
An omni bike.
No brand.
two seat bike.
Yeah.
Tandem.
A tandem.
It almost sounds like a 4-wheeler, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it was had 2, and I did all the work, Marnie.
This is for the Spuds.
It's for the Spuds round.
Right.
Spuds ride for Spuds round. So I was watching I was riding around. There was 2 speed humps around the MCG, by the way. It hurt my butt eventually. But then I turn on the game the next night, and there you are, You spoke so fantastically well that I was like, I have to actually speak to Tom. I've watched from afar. As you were talking about before, I know you. I feel like that Giants Bulldogs transition was a bit like you were used as almost a pawn in some sort of rich guy war, which we can talk to.
Yeah, happy to.
Is that how it felt?
No, it felt like I got offered $7 million to go play footy in my home state. So it's sort of, it's like one of those things. Actually, here's another one I did. I did Sammy Edmonds' show, who does like
This is your sporting life?
Journey.
Yep.
They've changed it.
Yeah,
it's
because
sponsored
it's
by
Tobin Brothers.
Which we've got to speak to.
Do we?
Well, I want to.
Great.
Yeah.
Or we'll talk to White Lady.
See, the thing with advertising for Tobin Brothers, do you then go, look at the casket? And you get one fitted?
Yeah, I would love that.
And you put one in is that,
For the right price, I would be buried alive.
I think someone else already did that on YouTube
they?
a few times.
Right, geez.
It's a Mr. Beast reference.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you want to get to the younger audiences, just mention his name
Yeah,
25
okay.
times.
Yes,
in the algorithm.
okay, good to know.
So it didn't feel like a rich man war at all, in particular because the Giants didn't really have any of those big characters at that stage yet. But certainly felt like a growing rivalry between the two clubs. But at the end of the day, like when you scale it all the way back, I signed a great deal. The only reason that deal went through, and I've spoken about this ad nauseum, so for anyone who wants to Google it, just go do that, is this deal was off. I didn't request it. It was not going to happen for 12 months. It was all hush-hush. It was a handshake deal that was going to wait. And who knows what would have happened 12 months later. We had absolutely written off. I was a Giants player. I signed a new lease in Sydney with 3 of the guys. It was all going ahead. And then Brian Griffin, the captain, goes, I want out of here. And I also want to go to the Giants. So all of the things that happened consequentially from that happened from that moment. And the weirdest thing was that Leon Cameron had coached Ryan at the Bulldogs when he was there as an assistant, and Leon was a fantastic player over 12 or 13 years, as I understand it. And Callan Ward was also there. And so the reason that, in a way, they lost their ability to get into a grand final that year, which I think mostly speaking everyone would have expected them to win, was the fact that they'd poached Ryan Griffin and then in turn had someone go the other direction who, was the only backup ruckman that was available on prelim night. So it was this very weird sort of turn of events over a period of time between those two clubs.
The Giants were aggressive in those early years as well. Like, I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the back end of the Sheedy aggressive early years where they were going out and getting big names and in Tom Scully and things like that.
Yeah, well, I see. I know. Look, Sheeds is obviously one of the greats of the game. There's no doubt about it. I'll never, but. When I got there, everyone still thought Sheeds was the coach.
Right.
I walked through the corridors of the new facility. We started in Sydney Olympic Park. We moved in about end of Jan and Feb. Sheeds hadn't been there at all, not once in those 2 months. And he met me, right, in the hallway. And I walked past and I said, "G'day, Sheeds, how are you?" And he goes, "What's your name, mate?" I'm like,
and you're the number 1 draft pick, yeah?
I know there was 4 of us there, but I still means something. And then I remember, and again, all love and respect to Sheets, I answered his question that he asked me. He looked off in the other direction whilst I answered it, and then in the middle of it, he walked off altogether.
Right. So he really... He wasn't
the coach. Leon was definitely the coach by that stage, and I'm not exactly sure what a hybrid arrangement was in place the year before. But
fucking hell,
I think Leon was basically the coach 12, and I think.
So okay, great. That's fascinating. And so you're on the MCG the other night, and you're speaking with regards to speaking up. Which is the Spuds round is all about. If you have talk to your mates, check in on them. Because you'd rather. I think one of the most powerful sentences, and I'm gonna.
Just take it, mate.
I'm just going to try my best at it. It was essentially just talk to them now so you don't have to talk to them at their funeral was the vibe.
Yeah, not the... Yeah,
awful.
basically,
I did an awful job.
Yeah, that was someone else.
That wasn't you, yes, but that was in the video package, yeah.
Essentially, the message is so much is to be said that the awareness around mental health has come to this point of us psychoanalyzing and diagnosing each other from a distance. And I'm here to tell you that I had more eyes on me than just about anyone in the country at that stage, particularly ones who were looking for weaknesses and problems and so on, because I was under so much criticism. No one knew. No one knew, particularly at work, and this is so often the case in the broader societal issue that applies to mental health, is that you can generally fake it at work up until that last moment till you can't. So my perspective is twofold. One, we don't need to reinvent the wheel here. We have hugely important and capable infrastructures for community like Aussie rules football across the country. there's 545,000 people who played the game in the last 12 months across all codes and shapes and sizes. And they're aiming for 1 million by 2033. So let's just consider how much of a broad-reaching impact that can have when you consider everyone who doesn't play but obviously sits on the periphery as trainers, coaches, et cetera, et cetera. So instead of us being these mind readers that all of us profess to be, let's talk to the people when things are going really well and make sure that above and beyond everything else that they're reminded that you are someone they can call if they have an issue that pops up, and to continue to reinforce that over a period of time in a way that's not directly related to what the issue might be, but something that is into the tune of, if you've got a problem that makes you too sad, angry, or confused and you don't know what to do about it, just ring me or talk to me. I can't guarantee I can fix the problem, but I guarantee I'll sit with you until you find someone who does or can. And to me, like, we make this thing so complex in terms of what's required at the individual level. And then in other ways, we simplify it right down to being like this very lazy approach to, why isn't the AFL done a mental health round already? I'm like, mate, I don't know if you realize they've got a bit on, right? Like, there's a bit going on in the AFL. Or, hey, we're sick of awareness. Let's just focus. We need action. I'm like, well, have you ever fixed a problem in any part of your life that you didn't pay attention to? No, it never happened. The moment that you stop focusing on something is the moment that it typically slips backwards. So my point being is, there's a really clear message at the individual and community level, which is be proactive, get in front of your mates, make sure they know that you are a vehicle for conversation when things turn bad. And the broad topic, I would say, of the AFL mental health round, I think it's a really simple process that you can actually make a massive difference and celebrate the great things that our game does already.
Really well said, Tom. I feel like at points, mental health in men's realms can sometimes feel like, when it is discussed, it can feel like vegetables, and it's a hard thing for people to listen to. Like, if people make it the point of podcasts, then often, or in discussions or interviews, then it just gets lower numbers, or people click across and don't want to know about it. But it feels like the AFL, or I would say men's mental health generally in this country, is still at a preliminary level where it's just we're still learning the best way. But I think what you're just talking about there, about making it less of a formality and and more of a practice that we are seeing across society, is a really, really good point.
Yeah, there's I have no idea if this is a real concept. Someone told me this once and it made a lot of sense. I've just shared it with everyone since without checking it all. It's called bilateral stimulation, which is essentially, to a really simple example is, when I speak, I walk all the time. So if I'm talking in front of a large group, I'm stepping to this. I don't stand at a lectern. There's a couple of reasons. One, it doesn't come out as smooth for me. I prefer to be open and moving and more dynamic. Number two is, I think that there is a physical barrier to quite a sensitive topic. And so in all of the speaking situations that I do, I like to have some space and a handheld mic and whatever. I think it's the same when you consider shoehorning small, but in a small way, but incredibly important way, topics like mental health to the place that people are already choosing to be. And this, I think, is... So I did this speaking engagement at Lockington Bamorm Football Club. Brilliant.
Classic, one of the best.
Yeah. So Bamorm is a town, but it's more like...
It's near Norwood in Adelaide, isn't it?
It couldn't be further. It's kind of like they just went like, okay, you 15 farms, you are this suburb. Okay. And there's no town, but there isn't a rec centre. You should look it up. It's Classic. Up near Echuca.
Oh, beautiful.
Anyway, we were sitting there and it was on election day. So the federal election's on. And everyone, and I said this on the day to the public that was there, the federal election spent all this time telling us about how we were voting for Australia's future and we're going to, pick the direction of our country forever, which in some ways is true. But in regards to dealing with this specific issue, I can absolutely guarantee that neither Albanese or Dutton had a plan for Lockington Bamorm Football Club and Netball Club. There's no chance. So at the end of the day...
Maybe the Greens.
If they did...
Maybe Clive Palmer.
The result... See, Clive would tell you. I must say there was a lot of dinging going on that day.
Yeah, a lot of text messages.
Yeah. Jeez, imagine back in the old days when that was 25 cents a pop.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. A fortune.
Jeez, poor old Clive.
And I'm sitting there and going, guys, no one's coming to save you. And I'm not saying this in a, everything's stuffed kind of way. I'm saying this in a, you got to take control of the fact that you all look after each other anyway. It's about small changes to apply it in a different way. And I talked to my dad, who still goes down to Norwood, not in Adelaide. And he basically said, like, you know, he's 65. All of his mates have got a variety of relationship, health, or otherwise issues. And he goes, if someone misses a Thursday or misses that, we're on the phone or going over to their house to check everything's okay because we've just lost too many blokes across the year. And I'm like, if my dad had said that to me 25 years ago, one, I would have been a bit young to understand it. Let's say in 2017 when I would have been absolutely knocked off my chair. So small wins, big impact, and doing it at scale, I think, is the road forward.
There's a literacy to health, mental health as well, that a lot of people, including myself, haven't had for the majority of their life. When I was your age, it was the first time I went to therapy, and it just, more than anything, I just learnt literacy of...
Yeah, for sure.
And finding the words for it as opposed to just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I think there's a literacy for you individually.
Yes.
You know, I think that there's simple things around, particularly in relationships. So much of the issues that I see in the work that I do comes from breakdowns in relationships or inability to communicate effectively. So there's an ability to express your emotions and what you're actually feeling, what you're actually trying to say in an effective way, which, you know, considering that I do a lot of public speak, this even me who's quite polished at speaking, I've found this really difficult for a long period of time. But there's also a literacy piece that comes with commentary and consideration around the mental health issue as a whole. And again, I'll refer back to, I wrote a few articles on LinkedIn that came out about this mental health round as a concept and why it should be done. And then basically to combat those two major objections, which is, they're just doing it for PR and, you know, why haven't they done it already? And I think that one of the things that really came out of that for me was there is a well-intended laziness that comes with addressing the issue. And an example I would use is, for those of you who've been around people with serious mental illness rather than mental health, with issues with bipolar or schizophrenia, like, this is a different issue to the one that most people consider mental health to be, right? There is still an overarching bucketing that happens of, they're just sort of the crazy people. And then there's everyone else. And when someone addresses the issue of mental health and they basically say, this is what we should do, they're not even specific about how they're going to do it, why they would do it with those people, when they're going to... And that's because, quite simply, it's much easier to criticise from that sort of overarching view than it is to come up with solutions.
It's a very good point. So you say that you mentioned earlier before we recorded that you are working too much. What are you doing at the moment?
I'm not working too much.
You're working a lot.
Yeah.
I've diagnosed and said that you're working too much.
Yeah, this is good.
Why are you here?
This is good. I think there's rules about that.
Yeah, great.
No, I do three major things, all which deliver the same message and the same, ideally the same outcome, but in three different ways. So the first is I do a range of public speaking work. So I do about 100 and something events a year across the country, all the way from schools to small local footy netball clubs.
MCG.
To the MCG, right? That's basically the other bookend, and all the big corporates and everything in between, as well as obviously a range of charities. And that message is pretty simple. The message that I deliver there, in obviously an interesting, ideally an enjoyable way, because I think that's one of the other challenges with delivering mental health insight, is that so many people deliver this hugely dark message. So people go, oh, well, if I'm not that bad, then I'm not bad. And rather than, my perspective is, make the speaking engagement so fun and enjoyable, then people go, oh, and remember that message that he had around just this one thing I can do. So I do a lot of that sort of stuff. And on top of that, I have a range of ambassadorships with organisations who essentially provide the platform and the focus for me to actually deliver some of those messages. So WorkSafe's a big one. We do regional country footy and netball work around really the impact of fatigue, burnout, stress, and mental health in basically work accidents, physical and mental, right? Like, lots of mistakes are made when people are under a huge amount of stress, as opposed to the root cause of someone making a mistake and hurting themselves or someone else just being a poor decision.
Yeah, right.
I do a lot of work with RecLink as well, which is basically a great organisation who uses sport to connect with mental health prevention and disability.
Would you play in the Cup? Would you play in the Community Cup?
Yeah, see, I'm more on there's a Game Changer Games is coming up in June, which is more my focus at the moment, but I have heard about this, but I haven't sort of gotten fully. I've only started it a couple of months ago. So
I know RecLink from this event more so than the brand. Like, the brand is, it's all these old rock stars go and play this game at Victoria Park.
Yes,
and it's
I actually got invited to it. It's in like a month.
Yeah,
you're right. It's
I feel
on
like
Sunday.
You should play. keep forward. Maybe why not?
Maybe the back.
Kick 400
The
goals.
15 surgeries I've had since then.
You're going against like Zan Rowe and like Tim Rogers from UMI though. So like
I should be
Triple J
okay,
host.
yeah.
You should be okay.
They sound short.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
who they are, but they sound short. They're all short.
Yeah, it's fair. I think that's fair. Relatively, yes.
And lucky enough to do 2 other ambassadorships with Western Bulldogs Community Foundation for obvious reasons, and also Movember, which is obviously the trendy mental health or men's health.
Yes.
So that's sort of the speaker stuff. And then I work for a company called Everperform, which is a tech business that's essentially looking at tackling psychosocial risk in the workplace.
Right.
And one of the reasons for it is that, to get people to be their best and perform and be productive, you need them to be safe at work. You need them to be well managed. You need them to be engaged, and then you can start working on all the other stuff. Because mostly businesses go the other way. They go, let's just go for output first.
So you're working across, about 5-6 different brands, platforms, businesses, projects.
Yes.
They all are aligned to mental health or mental, mental things.
Yeah, I'd say it's all aligned to people reaching their potential, but I think and that's the way I think about it. But the thing that always, not always, but very often stops people reaching their potential is they just can't get the mental health side of things right.
So has that been a personal thing that you've gone, this is something that I'm passionate about and I want to approach it in different ways, or has it just naturally come?
I think a little bit of both. I mean, there's obviously a uniqueness to my footballing story. Big contract, number 1 pick, premiership, retire young, mental health problems within there, very public, really the first player to come out and publicly talk through the detail of it, because I think that's an important distinction between, the typical designations of family issues or whatever else they call it. I was very specific for a reason. I didn't want everyone thinking I was sad because people on Twitter were calling me shit. So that's really where it started. And, you'd think it was... it sounds like it's relatively smooth sailing, but I started speaking publicly based on a request actually from a school out in Werribee. And that really kicked off everything. And I didn't put myself in market. I didn't even know how to do that at that stage, but basically got asked to come out and present to this grammar school. And I did that, did a number of other sort of small engagements towards the end of 2019, with which I retired in May and dove straight into this stuff. And I did my first speaking event in 2020 in a place called Kimber, which is in South Australia.
Great.
Lovely.
We got there.
Lovely spot. On the way to the Nullarbor,
Hell yeah.
if you will. And I presented into this town, and for those of you who don't know Kimber, which 99% of you more won't, is Kimber's a small town of about 700 people within the region, as I recall back then. And they'd had something like between 10 and 20 suicides within their teens and local farmers in the last 12 months. Like, it was disproportionately affected. And look, there's a number of reasons for that, which a lot of regional towns are going through. And I presented on the mental health side of things. And next door at the same pub was Corey Enright having his 20th year high school reunion, because he's from Kimber. I don't know how anyone became as good at footy.
Corey Enright. Oh, I just want to point out that when I've looked up Kimber, not only is it really far away, but the first thing that's come up is White's Knob Scenic Lookout.
Yeah, it's quite nice out there. There's another one called Iron Knob out there, I believe. And I know this because when I went out there, they'd had so much rain. This was one of the concerns, is they'd had no rain for 4 years and then too much rain, which had destroyed all the crop.
Yeah.
So I'm driving out to Iron Knob, and there's a 400-metre puddle that you can't drive through with an old Mercedes floating.
Oh, my God.
And 2 old people still sitting on the roof.
Oh, my gosh.
So it was a real thing. Anyway,
So
my
what's with all the knobs?
it's a geographical, geological knob. If that
Okay, great. Good to know.
Anyway,
and you would say that too as well, Dr. Zoidberg's geographical knob. So yes, you go to Kimber.
The only reason for this whole story is the next day I came back, COVID hits, I lose all of the speaking stuff for a year, and basically this whole thing just goes on pause for 6 to 12 months. And that's when I first wrote my book in 2020, and then moved into 2021 and published it in 2022. So it hasn't been smooth, but it has been something that I've been very dedicated and focused on for getting close to 10 years now.
Good on you, man. It's huge work you're doing. Like I think the AFL as a wider community, as shown the other week at the St Kilda game, it's just richer for having you speak about it, and please continue to do so. And I think there's not a lot of nuance that when things like men's mental health rounds are brought up, or mental health rounds generally brought up, there's not a lot of nuance or detail beyond just that let's have one. And so like
Yeah.
having people like yourself abdicating or talking about it is really, really, really cool.
No, I appreciate it. I think that, like anything, the devil's in the detail, and we need to address it properly to be able to actually talk about it properly and deal with it subsequently.
Now let's talk about this
Yes.
detail. So you go to a lot of high schools. That was my first job out of uni. I go around and do a show called Cyber Busters, which is about cyberbullying, and it was a bad show. Now, how many high schools are you going into, and can you tell when you walk in which school is going to be a good school and which school is going to be a bad school, and when they're going to have good teachers and stuff? Because I could.
Yeah. Frankly, yes, of course. I tell you what I have noticed. This is more of a age issue than a school by school issue. Is
Yes.
they can't concentrate
No, Tom.
for shit.
Here's my breakdown. Tell me if this resonates with you. So if you do, how low do you go? 5, 6s?
No. To be honest, if it was up to me, I'd probably stick at year 10 and above, but I'd get thrown
Tom,
a few.
Tom, hell yeah. So 5 and 6 are sweetest kids in the world. 7's beautiful. 8's
Eight's the girls. I remember being horrendous.
Oh,
and
okay.
9's the boys.
9s, year 9s are the worst people in the world. They are bad people and they stink, Tom. They stink and they are bad people.
I remember it like exactly going like that. So.
Yeah, they stink and they mean harm to people. And then year 10s, they go, oh, I'm an adult now. And then they start to get better. And then by year 12, they're like...
It did seem right. So at my high school, we were at Luther College out in Croydon Hills. And
Is that near Donvale?
a bit further. Near Yarra Valley, if you know where
yeah,
Yarra Valley
part of
High
the
School
world, yeah.
is. And then Yarra Valley, the actual bit's a bit further. But anyway, I was like they had an unwritten rule that we won't agree for all students to participate in 10, 11, 12 till we get through year 9. So we'd have these like people that you go away on holidays at the end of year 9 and they come back and be like, where's Sally? And you're shit hit bacon.
Well, there's a Eltham College, a private school out in Eltham Way, and they send their year 9s either into the forest or into the city,
Yes. Yeah.
and it's because they stink and they're bad people.
Yeah,
and just
it's not just
remove them
them.
for the stinky bad. It's coming for you soon. Your kids will stink and be bad people. for
Yeah,
you.
well, see, that's the difference, right? So the Eltham High send them to the school. What do you say? The
Forest or the city.
Right, the forest of the city, and then the private schools send them to this enormous $100 million farm.
Yeah, exactly.
They go, how long should we send them for? 3 weeks? Not enough. And some of them go for a year. Like,
Yeah, jeez. Yeah, good on them. Shout out to any stinky year 9s. Tom, where can we... you've got many things that our audience can champion and support you. Where should we go? What should we do?
Yeah, you can contact me on all of the socials and all that stuff. I won't check most of it, to be honest with you.
You're very prompt with us. It was very nice of you.
Yeah, you caught me in a good moment.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And, it's sort of one of those things I kind of just agree to do a few things at once and get into it. But yeah, so I'm on all the social media. I do obviously a huge amount of speaking work and I love working with businesses on that front. But more than anything, I think share the message of the stuff that I'm talking about from a mental health point of view and how you can support your mates and yourself. And there's also a petition going around that I started around getting this mental health round up and going with the AFL, which always helps. So
Great, Tom. Thank you so much for joining us, mate.
Thanks, guys.
Everyone,
Appreciate
for listening. Bounce that pill.
This is a Grouse House podcast.